Hey, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahshua Bashim Kodash. That belongs to the Apostle Nelson Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to you, brothers, pushing the truth throughout the four winds. This video was basically inspired just watching some podcasts on social media and things, and just noticing a trend of individuals on there basically saying there is no God. There is no higher power, and it's a lot of them, and crazy thing about it is when you read the comments, a lot of these people really follow after these podcasters. And what it really goes into, like when you watch, the main question they'll ask is, where was God or the Most High during slavery? And that's where they'll basically get everything from. Like, people actually blindly follow these men, so just put together some scriptures, pray that it's edifying, Jeremiah 17:4. And this is the root problem of everything, why they can actually, it's obvious that they're destined to be 2/3, but these scriptures just give you insight on being lost, not having nothing to call your own if you're not the elect, if you're not, knowing the truth and knowing what's truly going on. Okay, this is Jeremiah 17:4. It says, and thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. So, a few things in this verse. I will cause thee to serve thine enemy. So, that in itself, when you are in servitude and you're captive, okay, that means whatever is put out there, you're forced to believe. Okay, when someone captures you and feeds you what you're going to eat, tell you what you're going to believe, it only gets to a point where things get so tough to where you have no fight left in you, to where you just submit to what these people say, and that's why it's that scripture that says, and the gift destroyed the heart. Because once Jake got into a position to where it was comfort, their minds was like, okay, well, Esau isn't so bad because, look, I got a job making $40 an hour, and you kind of forget what's truly going on. And I remember one of the apostles said a long time ago to always, like, every now and then, watch you a good slavery movie, just to keep your mind steadfast on what's truly going on here, and that stuck with me. Like, I just watched The Birth of a Nation. I watch it every now and then. Mississippi Burning, just, some movies to kind of put you in that spirit, of not really losing that edge on what's truly going on, But it says, serve thine enemy. So it's no way we as an entire nation would agree on anything as well, because you got to keep in mind, everybody that was brought up in different places, different times, different religions, you're not going to get put in a spot of agreeing, But the scriptures also tell us it's one truth. Okay? So everybody is not going to get it. And that's the whole part of heritage captivity and knowing who you are. So when you discontinue from your heritage, that's everything about who you are. That's everything about the way you ate, the way you conducted yourself, the way you treated your brothers, you know? So if you lose who you are, you're not going to know where you're going. That's why the nation is called the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Okay? Lost and docile, going any which way. Yahushua is a shepherd, bringing the elect back together into the fold and getting in line to what's really supposed to be going on. Now, I know that these jakes that I'm watching, I know they're not going to get it, but it's just something to see how easy people are persuaded, just seeing where was God during slavery, and like everybody just jumps on it. I noticed something about Jake, and this goes into losing your heritage. Notice there's something about our people is whatever the trend is, they follow. I'm talking about whatever it is, they follow. It was one recently at the rodeo. Beyonce's mom had like gumbo. And every time you just get on, that's all you're seeing. The gumbo, the gumbo, the gumbo. Now they're calling her a witch because everybody who ate it got sick. But people were saying when the people first ate it that they wasn't feeling good. The guy threw up. But Jake still went standing those long lines and everybody ate it. But it just shows you losing your heritage and not knowing who you are. You're blind to follow anything. Okay, so this is heritage. It says something that is handed down from the past as a tradition. We have none. That's why we'll say here, do something for the culture. Everything we have that we're calling our own is what we made up in this place as the nation. So not knowing your heritage, you have to make one up. And that's what happened. Okay? It says something that comes or belongs to one by reason of birth, an inherited lot or portion, or heritage of poverty and suffering. So whatever is left to you, this is what it's going to be. We know the promise was to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob name changed to Israel, with Jacob and Esau, the heritage, and how that played out, the way Yahweh Shem Yahshua had it to play out. But this what was prophesied to Jeremiah. You're going to discontinue from your heritage. You're not going to know who you are. You're going to be going around in a land that you don't know what this land is. And not only that, you're not going to know who you are. Okay? 3, something reserved for one, the heritage of the righteous. Okay? Something that has been or may be inherited by legal descent or succession. Any property, especially land, that devolves by right of inheritance. So, and we know the promise that was left. We will have our own land, we will be princes, and rulers and everything, so on and so forth. But we discontinue from that. Okay, so when I see this person asking where was God, and there is no God, when you see these things, you understand. Jake just don't understand that it was a heritage given. We were the greatest things and still is the greatest people on this planet. They just don't understand what's going on. So seeing that, it just makes the scriptures even more right, showing that you discontinued from knowing what and who you are. Okay? This is Psalms 14:1. It says, "The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt, they have done abominable works, there is none that doeth good." Okay? The fool says in his heart, there ain't no power, and they proceed to do whatever the hell they want to do. And that's just how Jake moves, But in these times, what can they say? Like when you had freedom, you loathed my laws. When you had the freedom to do right, you look right past it. So instead of taking heed, which we know 2/3 isn't going to do, it's a punishment laid out for them. Okay? So that trap that he set, and all of them set, where was God during slavery, and believing in that, and just reading the comments, it's just like, it kind of makes you feel a certain type of way, because you kind of like, you don't feel for Jake because the lot is the lot, but it's like, man, these people don't have a clue what's going on. They have no clue what's going on. Matthew 24:4, and Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. And this is a scripture that came to mind when I seen this. Just take heed. Don't let nobody deceive you. But the Lord is a mastermind, because the way everything comes together, when you look at all of these things, you have all of these religions, and everything with these religions are being exposed. All of these pastors asking for money, and like it's just everywhere on the news. This person got arrested, just money this. Like, somebody will get up and say, the Lord just gave me a revelation, and this person bring 10,000 in 90 seconds. Like, you see all of these things, and Jake has an eye for nonsense and knowing when something is just like, okay, that's trash. So they'll look at that and be like, that's why we don't go to church anymore. So then they'll be like, okay, we're done with the church and religion. Then it'll lead to, you'll see a lot of people going over to being Muslims. Then you'll just have some people like, man, I'm not dealing with none of that foolishness. But it just shows you the mastermind in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, because he knew that this would happen in the manner that it's happening, to where I'm going to show you that this is phony. I'm going to show you that that's phony. So Jake not wanting to follow any laws and be obedient to anything, basically is just going to say, I don't believe in nothing. That's how wicked this world is. You'll go to church and everything is about money, so you can't go there. So it's like, man, what is there left to go to? But not knowing the truth of who you are and what's going on, that's the mind frame of Jake. They truly don't understand. Okay. Matthew 24:11. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. Okay. It says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And that's what happens. So the increasing rate of everybody seeing these preachers and witnesses to them doing all of this trash they're doing, and like, man, F the church. And that's how they're looking at it. And the church being so wicked, everything is about money. Money. Like, it's like everything is coming to a place to where everything's being exposed, you know, and it drives some people to the truth, and it drives people to whatever their lot is. Okay. Colossians 2:8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. So everything being taught and listening and watching these men listen to this and women listen to this, it's not of Yahweh Shai. It's not of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. You know, they're basically leaning upon their own understanding. And that's never good, you know. But it blows my mind watching these people and just freely saying there is no power. Like, this is the title on their screen. There is no God. Prove me wrong. You know, and then it's like, well, where was God during slavery? And just so on and so forth, you know, and just not having an understanding of what's truly happening, you know. But I pray that this is edifying. Shalom.